Welcome to another episode of the Lightspeed Investing Podcast. I'm so glad to have Pete Grimes, my dear friend from Miami, here with me. I know that I was just out there for the last 2 weeks or so up in Boca and South Miami, and it's been a little bit since we last saw each other. But how are you doing, my friend? What's going
I'm
on?
great. I'm great. I was just up in New York last weekend with my wife, and I love New York. It was cold though, especially coming from Miami. Had to find some cold. Where are my warm winter jackets? And so that was a big hustle. And so now I'm looking out my window here in Miami. It's a beautiful day.
I
So
know
everything's
it's
going
so
well.
great,
Yeah,
awesome,
it's
man.
good.
Great to hear, and I'm
But
so
here's a
glad
real
to bring
question:
you
How are the
on.
Jayhawks doing? That's a real
Oh,
question.
Oh, well, the real answer is we did take a big loss yesterday. We were down like 20 at halftime at Arizona State, but in general this year, we've been doing well. We were so far 41-0 on Big Monday, and we did
Wow.
beat Arizona at home. And so we're hoping to win another chip this year. We have to, I would say, potential and capacity for it, but we'll see what happens.
All right, all right. Arizona's tough. Arizona's looking strong, so we'll see.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
they certainly are. Arizona, Michigan, and Duke are other contenders for the chip. But I'm excited to bring you on because not only do you have a compelling story in how you got here, you also have a pretty interesting business. And so, for those of you listening in, Pete Grimes currently is a business owner that helps you get your name and brand out there by making you an Amazon bestseller, but it was not always this case, right? So, Pete, you want to share with the people how you actually got here and why is it that now that you are here, this is something that you have total satisfaction on doing because you found that path that gives you that passion, that fulfillment.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for the introduction. It's interesting. As a storyteller, we were talking about this a little bit earlier. Everyone's interested in that aha story, that aha moment. So my background is in marketing. I've worked as, CMO, high tech, my whole career. And my career started out in Spain, actually. So I
Mm.
learned, the high tech business in Spanish and came back to the States, came back to California, where I'm from, Silicon Valley, and had to relearn it in English, so to speak. But what happened and where I pivoted from corporate America is that I was part of this executive speaking circuit. And it was really funny because,
Okay.
executive professional speaking circuits, these are the big dogs in the industry, like some of the people
Mm.
probably on this call and your audience and people that go to you for financial advice and whatnot. People were very successful. But the ironic part about that is I kept hearing them wondering, what's next? What's next for me? And I didn't understand this, and I thought they were very successful. Or what could they be wanting? What's next? But and it all came to fruition one time, like it fell on me like a ton of bricks because we just gotten off the stage. I was talking to this, high-powered executive, high-powered individual, and I told him, "Fantastic job, you nailed it." I put my hands up to high five him, and I said, "You should do this full time." Like go on speaking and talk to people and teach people and, create their leadership tree. And I'm waiting for him to high five me and his shoulder slumped. And he goes, I'd love to do that. I just wouldn't even know where to start. Like I literally wouldn't know where to start, but that would be my dream. And he sauntered off to the bar, I think, somewhere. It was only 9 in the morning, so hopefully not. But that's a little that story. And but literally, Philip, it was a minute later, 30 seconds later, a long 30 seconds, like, oh my God, I have the solution. I know exactly what he needs to do. This guy has all this information, but it's on Post-its, it's on PowerPoints, it's on one-on-one peer reviews and all these things. And he just needs
Hmm.
to consolidate it into his masterpiece, which is where the book idea started. Get it in a book, but
Okay.
then as a marketing guy, I like to repurpose that across different platforms because now we have the book, his blood, sweat, and tears. And we could turn it into social posts. We could turn it into blogs. We could turn it into videos. We could turn it into keynote addresses. We could turn it into courses. So then I splice and dice that into a branding machine for these guys. And so that's what I did. I wrote about in my book, which was a bestseller. I learned from doing that how to help other people become bestsellers as well. And but just lastly, what I like to tell people, because I know your audience is very concerned about finances, that they're here with you for that reason. they're probably wondering, what is the ROI of a book, Phil, right? They're going to think,
Right.
how much am I going to
Yeah.
make with that? Unless you're a Grisham or a Malcolm Gladwell or, or something like that, probably not enough, honestly. And because let's think about it. $20 book, you make 30% in royalties. It's going to take you, 1,000 books to make 6K.
Right.
However, here's what I tell people. You're not doing it for the book sales. You're doing it for the opportunities that this book generates. Being on a board of directors, how much do you make
Right.
for that? Bringing in clients, new clients, how much do you make for that? So you can see how this, the 6K in book sales pales to what you can make by opening up other doors of opportunities. And that's why all
Yep.
that social media and all that marketing is so important once you get your book done.
The book is basically like a key, and it unlocks doors, right, and opportunities.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a cornerstone of this. And you know what? Speaking of storytelling, everyone likes the hero's journey, but the hero
Right.
is in the story always finds his Yoda, or his Gandalf, or his,
Mm.
whatever, I forget and even in Harry Potter, it's like the big doctor there. So there's always a guide, right? So then you have to think about your book as you being the guide for somebody else. You're helping someone else
Mm.
avoid the pitfalls, the mistakes you made, fast track because some of the secrets you learned in the process, and then
Yeah.
improve their life that way. And then they're going to go on and teach somebody else or impact someone else's life. So what my business is called Legacy Thought Leadership, because I like to differentiate myself from the typical influencer who's concerned about vanity statistics, likes and product placements and all that, or the typical thought leader who goes to a hotel ballroom and speaks at the audience, opens up his PowerPoint, speaks at the audience, and that's it. I am interested in people who want to expand their impact. So you create, you train the leaders of the future, they train the next generation of leaders. That's your leadership tree, your ripple effect, and your legacy, which is going to outlive, you. So you'll be helping people you'll never meet, in other words. Yeah.
I love it. I
So
love
that
it.
was a
And
long-winded
so,
explanation.
no, I mean, you gave a very, very clear explanation. I love it. And in terms of, for the audience to know how, like reference points, right, and the track record that you've created, you want to talk a bit about previous clients who you've helped serve, and kind of how they leverage their books and what happened with them.
Yeah. So I it's hard to promise 100%, but I have a 100% record of having best-selling authors, right? And so there's
Mm.
certain tricks of doing that. And but first and foremost, one of the things is to have just nail down your message, present it in a way that the reader feels a transformation. So the way my IP spells out the table of contents, it's almost like a course. So it goes from meet the reader where they are, begin at the beginning, lead them through that hero's journey again, so they feel that learning, that transformation, everything else. And then when they get to the end of the book, they want more information because they're really satisfied. They feel gratification, and that's where you can invite them to next steps, like check out my website, go to my podcast, download, join my course, have me come speak at your event. So there's always a call to action at the end of the book. So it's not salesy. By that point, they know, like, and trust you because they've gone through the whole book. So the typical person I speak with are just like C-level executives, successful founders, successful professionals in the area of discipline, but they wonder, would anyone want to listen to my message? And I find it really interesting because so this is an exercise I do with them, and anyone listening here could do the same thing. Do you want to validate your message? You could do it from the comfort of your own home, from your chair. Think about the hundreds of times you've had these conversations where someone's come to you for advice and they've said, Philip, you know, can you like, what would you do right now financially if you were me, blah, blah, blah. And you just give them your insights, and it comes naturally because you're an inspired professional, and you can tell them within 5 minutes the things they should do. And the cool thing about that is that they walk away satisfied. It's like, oh my God, this guy who has all this experience, boil it down from, his years experience for me in 5 minutes. How cool is that? And better, more important still, Philip, is that you feel satisfied because you were able to lift that person up, which is good. And so that's one of the exercises I do so people can validate their message, validate that their message is important. But then the next thing I tell them is that they can publish a book without writing a word. They don't have to type a single word. They don't have to sit at a keyboard, because with my system that you speak your book into existence, you don't type a single word. You're not sitting at the keyboard. It's really just an interview with me, but it's not ghostwriting, because a typical ghostwriter, Phil, is going to come to you and speak with you for like 15 minutes, and then go write your book in his words, right? And but what I do is I have with my IP, it extracts the stories and we go paragraph by paragraph to support the thesis of that paragraph with content and your stories, and in a way that it becomes its bestseller DNA. And so all you have to do is tell your stories, your hard-earned lessons, your years of experience, the same way you've been doing it in your meetings, at the bar, in your long road trips with your wife, like those same stories you have. But then just by speaking, we organize it into a book, following that path I told you. And like I said, 9 times out of 10, it becomes a bestseller. So that's pretty
Right,
exciting.
and you said there's I think 3 pillars, right? Like that, how you anchor yourself in this way that makes you different.
Oh yeah, thank you for
Do
bringing that up. Yes,
yeah, you wanna?
yeah.
Yep.
Thank you, Philip. That's great. So everyone here talks about AI. You hear people talking about AI. You hear people talking about the ghost stories. So really, you have 3 options. You could go the AI option. You could go the ghostwriter option, or you could do it yourself, right? So AI, as we all know, is just going to do the same thing for you as for someone else, and it's going to be very vanilla. The problem right now is there's so much information. There's so much noise. And the real problem right now is trust and credibility, right? And so that's why if you do a book that's 100% AI, you're going to lose your trust and credibility, because people will find out about that. They will find out about that. And so say goodbye to your trust and credibility like that. Overnight, it's gone. You can go to the ghostwriters. I explained before, it won't be your voice. It won't be in your voice. They won't be able to talk about all the stories you know. Or you could sit at the computer, pound away, and do it yourself. But the problem with that, Phil, is we know, because a lot of people, anyone out there who's started a book and not finished it, is you could get to page 1, chapter 1, and be there for weeks. You could get through the first few chapters and it'll be in a drawer for months or years. That's really hard. I do it in such a way where that there's no time for thinking. Like I have it wrapped up where, here's a little math for you. You're a numbers guy. So the average book, 200 pages, let's say, that's a sweet spot. Nobody wants to read more. It's about 4 to 6 hours of speaking time. So over a weekend with my authors, I sit down, we do 2.5 hours one day, 2.5 hours the other day. That's all I need from them to take all of those stories and turn it into a book. 200 pages, bestseller, never having to type a word. And so I like to say to go back to your question. So I play very nicely in that world of AI, ghostwriting, and doing it yourself, because it is your book. It's a total reflection of you. That's the most important things, because they're your stories. Um, I use AI to do the research. Big teams like Michener I spoke about before, or Grisham, have researchers look into the law books, look into the history books to make sure that their story sounds legit, because they do their due diligence.
Yeah.
So that's how I use AI to do that. Like, so I don't have a research team. I can pull it out with AI. Done, right? And then, so that makes that easy. So I play nicely there. And then the ghostwriting path, as I said before, you know, I, how it comes down to you're telling your stories, and more stories bubble up. My authors have said that it feels very therapeutic, because they didn't even remember some of these stories. As we have these conversations, this amazing story of their past comes up that would never have come up when the ghostwriter does it themselves, for example. So that's why I say I think I play very nicely right in that smack in the middle there, with the Gantt. Is that the Gantt chart, or where you have all the circles and the one in the middle? I forget which one that is, but anyway.
Well,
Um,
I just remember when I asked you what is it that made you different, and what is it that you take pride on, right? Where you're not the same as everyone else, right? You said there were, I think, three pillars of I would say support that you provide, right? And that's kind of why I wanted to make sure I asked that so that you can explain to the audience, right, your specific process.
Yeah, so it's really kind of cool too. So, and on that point, that I think it's really gratifying for me when I do have these conversations with people because I come prepared. I do my due diligence. I scrape, their public records, everything that's out visible to them, and I tell them ahead of time. It's like, look, this is before I get your verbal input, but I want to come
Mm,
prepared with a direction, so we're not staring at a blank page. So here's
yeah,
what the first chapters could look like, and everything else. And here's the research I've done, and here's some kind of messaging we can work with. And people have had
yeah,
tears in their eyes, Philip, literally tears in their eyes. And it's like, oh my God, it's like you're in my head because I've been thinking about this my whole life, but I've never seen it on paper. I've never seen it
sure.
articulated. And you've just done
So
that for me. So they realize, "Mhm."
what industries would you say you have worked with so that the audience knows, right, like the experience that you've garnered and that especially the sectors and industries?
So it's pretty funny. Like, it's really hard to pigeonhole. Just this week, I spoke with a guy who's the chairman of the African professional delegation in Canada for a large bank, speaking about DEI in Canada. His book's been a bestseller for the last 2 months. Super excited.
Great.
I'm working with a lawyer who's talking about estate planning as well right now, for baby boomers, which is pretty interesting. And
Oh wow, yeah, that's a
I,
super focused niche.
this book is fascinating. I don't want to give any spoiler alerts, but it's amazing. Really excited about it. It's going to help people change people's lives, and I'm excited about that too. There's another one, a CISO, a woman, head of chief information security officer for a large international multinational corporation. A CDO, chief data officer, who's like
Mm,
all about AI, and everything else. And last but not least, a preacher who survived a near death experience during COVID, who had a refound connection with God and wants to write about that as well. So just this
mm,
week, all those things. And so it's really hard to define. I think that my opinion, Phil, is that everyone has a message, everyone has a book in them. Everyone has an audience that can benefit from that message. So, whether it's a doctor, a lawyer, a police officer, a football star, to your area of passion, basketball stars. And, they all have something that they could share with someone who's going to shorten the journey for someone else and make their life easier. So there's really no niche. But for me, usually it's people, I guess if you know Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the people who've
yes.
solve the first levels of those things, like financial, the kids are in school, the house is mostly paid off, the tuitions are paid off, they're in a comfortable place financially, and they're like, what's next? I need that self-realization, this is where I want to give back. So that's where
Mm.
I would define it, more than a
I
vertical,
love that. I love that.
just
Yeah.
a place in life. Yeah.
No, yeah, absolutely. You got to have some kind of, I think, foundation that is set, and you're able to not focus on feeding yourself with your own oxygen mask, but now you're looking to, right, help others, and because you're in a position to, and because it's the right thing to do, depending on where you are, right, in that segment of your life. But those are definitely, some sound prerequisites. That's awesome, man. And so listen, I'm really glad having you here, sharing, a bit about yourself, sharing what it is that you do for the audience listening, right? And let's say they are curious how it works. Maybe you have a free resource. What's the best way for them to get a hold of you, and what is the best next steps for them to take?
Yeah, that's great. So I have some tools I use. I will share them with you. You can put them in links in the comments or something.
Sure.
Um, the easiest way to find me is on LinkedIn, Pete Grimes. I'm on LinkedIn. That's where a lot of my tools are. That's where I speak about a lot of my frameworks of getting it done. On there, you can find this video where I show how your rough draft could be done in a week. Based on that interview, the rough draft is done in a week. People don't believe it, but it's true. Some of these tools I have, which are very worthwhile to know, is that one tool, which is a quick start guide for writing your book. Kind of hinted at that earlier, which is how you could validate your message just by picking up the phone and speaking to a peer of yours and say, if I wrote a book about this, what would you be interested in? What advice do you need from me? Another thing I have is a legacy profiler. You answer 5 questions and it tells you where your legacy, where your message is solid and where you can expand it, and just different avenues for solidifying your impact. And the last one is this book breakthrough bundle. I use different AI tools to create the outline. These are AI tools I'm sharing. It's a combination of prompts where you can actually build your book within 10 minutes. That includes research, table of contents, and everything else. It's pretty fascinating. Then of course, I'm not saying it's done. You still need to improve on it, but it's built, and then you tell your stories, and then you get it published and everything else. But and that is a cool link too, and that's how people could get from blank page to the first 20 pages of their book done in 10 minutes, which is pretty amazing. I'm really happy about that one. I don't know if you have the same issue. People are worried about giving things away, but you have to give something of value to people because there's so much noise out there. So this thing is very valuable, I think. And I could say, people would say, well, why would you give that away? And I said, well, because one, people have to see the value of this. They have to see the ease by which this can be done, how easy their message can be out. And they have to know, like, and trust you. So nobody knows me, but they see how this tool can change their life. Then all they need to do is give me a phone call, and I could help them carry that across the goal line. I'm more of a football fan than a basketball fan, Philip. Sorry about that. Sorry for the football analogy.
No, it's all good. It's all good. As long as it's a football playbook from Alabama and the SEC, I'm happy with it, because obviously they are the champions of that sport. Hey, Pete, listen, so glad to have you on. Thank you so much. For those of you listening, make sure you look at Pete Grimes' LinkedIn, get those free tools, get in contact with him when you get a chance to. And especially if you have a message that is valuable that you want to share with the world, he is your guy. So look, happy having you on. I'm so excited to have caught up with you. And next time I'm in Miami, we definitely need to catch up in person again. Okay?
Yeah, that sounds great. Hey, a parting shot just for your audience, just so you know. Everyone thinks about, building, doing financial management, estate management, investment management, as you guys are specializing in. Not enough people think about their legacy management, reputational management. And that's where that's where we come in. And so once you've got those other boxes checked and you're thinking about your reputation, your long-term, what people say about you when you're not in the room, that's where you come to me and you write a book, and we expand your message.
Love it. Love it. Thanks so much, Pete.
Okay,
and
thank you.
See you
in
time,
Miami.
Okay?
You bet.
Absolutely. Take care now.
Mojitos are on me.
Appreciate it. I'll hold you to it. Take care now.
You too.